Hey everybody, Bill Owen from Mnpctech.com. How you doing? Today I'm going to show you how to modify the new Fractal Design Define S2 with a custom front bezel that allows you to swap from a mesh grill to a window. Modifying your front PC bezel for a custom window now allows you to show off your programmable RGB or just plain LED fans, or move your fans to the front of the chassis inside the bezel so you've got more room for a larger radiator or just a cleaner presentation of your system inside. If the front window mod doesn't appeal to you and you're more performance oriented and want to bring in more airflow to the front of your system, you can instead make a mesh grill that's removable when you need to clean it and just add front filters. Now you've got improved airflow. So the idea for this case mod came to me as I watched Mosquito dismantle the front bezel on the Define S2. It presents this huge opening, perfect for a large window or a mesh grill to help improve airflow. And if you're thinking, well, I don't have an S2, Bill, well then just cut out a big opening in your front bezel. So let's get right into the steps that I made in creating this case mod. First off, you're going to need a sheet of acrylic that is 1/8 inch thick and measures 12 inches by 24 inches long, and then measure out a rectangular shape using the dimensions on your screen. Just pause the video and grab them. On to the next step. On the front of the S2 bezel, there is a recess around the edge of the front bezel. Flip the S2 bezel onto its face and put the edge of that recess right on the edge of the acrylic so everything lines up nice and tight. Then you're going to trace the inside opening of the S2 bezel. This is going to be the opening that you cut out from the sheet of acrylic. By doing these measured outlines, you've created a faceplate that will sit inside the front S2 bezel. The next stage is cutting our acrylic sheet so we've got a nice faceplate for our S2 bezel. So what I like to do is I'll tape the acrylic onto an empty box so it collects all the scrap and debris. Then I'll grab my rotary tool with a cutoff wheel and I'll create 4 incision cuts in the corner of the outline for the opening. Then I grab my jigsaw with an 18 TPI bimetal cutting blade, which is great for cutting acrylic. Now, if you need a jigsaw for DIY projects, or if you're going to really get into PC and case modding, you can go on Amazon Prime right now at the time of this video and get a new Black & Decker jigsaw for $29.97 delivered. And when I first started case modding, this is the jigsaw that I used for a few years and it worked great. After I cut and hand filed my piece of acrylic so it fits nice and flush inside the recess of the S2 bezel frame, go back to that original material that you cut, and that long piece of scrap, I need you to measure out these 4 widths that we're going to cut next. Cutting these long skinny pieces of acrylic with your jigsaw could be quite a challenge. Ideally, if you can get access to a vertical or band saw with a fence so you can align it right along the fence as you cut and get them as perfect as possible, would be best. Now I'll show you the location for these long pieces of acrylic on our front bezel plate before we actually attach them. The skinny piece goes first on the outer edge along with the larger piece on top, so we're creating a rail so the front bezel window or the mesh grill will easily attach and be removed from the front of the bezel. At the bottom of the bezel, you need to create a piece that will stop either the window or the mesh grill from falling through. And this piece is 7 3/4 inches long by 1/4 inch wide. Now that we have all of our acrylic cut for our faceplate that's going to attach onto the S2 bezel, we need to figure out how we're going to attach it onto the bezel. The method I've chosen to attach our plate onto the bezel is using 632 thread flat socket cap screws. The next step is temporarily taping my acrylic plate onto the front of the S2 bezel. Then I flip it onto its face, and in the video you can see the locations for the 8 screw holes that I'll drill, and those are into existing round or slotted holes in the S2 bezel. Since I'm using 632 thread machine screws, I'll use an 1/8 inch size drill bit. And this drill bit is designed for cutting plastic or acrylic. You can get these drill bits from Mnpctech.com. The next step is using a countersink bit for the 632 size holes, so the screws are very flat and flush because I need to attach our acrylic pieces to create the rail right over these screws. On the back side of this bezel, there's nuts that hold all of these screws in place, so I've got the option to remove the custom plate if ever needed in the future. Which leads us to our next step, and that is attaching all of our cut acrylic pieces together. And what I'll be using for that is Grip's number 4 solvent cement for acrylics. Now this solvent cement is very watery, and I've seen people use a syringe to apply it to the acrylic. I prefer to use a cheap hobbyist or scale modeler brush. That way I'm not dripping the solvent on the stuff I don't want it on. Once you apply the solvent, join the acrylic pieces together and then hold them for 10 seconds so they cure. And they cure pretty fast. This solvent really does fuse and join acrylic pieces together so they're very strong. You'll need to cut your front window, if you go with the window option, from 1/16 inch thick cast acrylic or plexiglass, and here's the dimensions for the window size. Once you've got your window cut, do a trial run with the bezel, make sure everything fits properly and moves properly, and let me know in the comments, do you think you would do the window mod or have a full mesh grill to help improve airflow if this was something you were to do on your own? Let me know in the comments. Now what I have here is the round Modders mesh from Mnpctech, and I think what I'll do is I'll paint it white so it matches the white S2 PC build that we're doing. And speaking of painting, let's go ahead and paint the acrylic that we attached onto the S2 bezel so it matches everything. What I use is a Scotch-Brite pad to scuff the surface first of the acrylic, then I wipe it off with a clean cotton rag, and then what I did is I applied Rust-Oleum's Painter's Touch 2X Ultra Cover, which is a combination paint and primer in the flat white, so it matches our Fractal Design Define S2. And here is our final results of the front bezel mod after letting the paint cure for 24 hours. It looks nice and clean. Again, let me know in the comments, would you go with the window or the front mesh grill? I like the front mesh grill, and especially after I painted the mesh white to match the case. It looks nice and clean. You've got really good airflow. All you have to do is just add some front filters to your fans and you're ready to go. Or you're not maybe interested in the front grill, swap out to the window, or you could cut out a design from a plate of steel or aluminum and show that off as a front custom grill, maybe with your name or a logo or some type of design that you create. Let me know in the comments your ideas. For this build, I'm moving the fans to the front of the chassis, and I'm using Inwin's RGB fans of the clear frame, and I painted the legs of the fans white to match everything, and I've got red anodized M4 fan screw washers holding the fans on the front. So that's what I decided to go with this build. It may change. Maybe I'll think more about what I want to do with it. Oh, here's another thing, is that these holes in the Define S2 chassis, I made some cover plates, painted some acrylic, and then I'm using the Tape of the Gods 3M's 4010 tape to attach these plates over these holes so there's a much cleaner look when you're looking at the front of the PC. And there you have it. I hope you found this case mod guide with the S2 inspirational to do your own case mods, whether it's a Define S2, Fractal Design, Define R4, R6, or whatever case it is. Go out there and mod something. Also check out my store at mnpctech.com. I make a wide variety of custom accessories and mods for your custom PC builds. And in the comments, let us know if you would like us to further pursue doing custom modifications to this Define S2 that we've got at the shop. Mosquito and I talked about doing a possible liquid cooled build, doing something other than RGB
and what was the other one? RGB and hardline. Could we possibly bring flex tubing back again and make it cool? I don't know. I mean, you got to do something that really dropped Jaws as an original today. So let us know in the comments or share your ideas for this build that we're possibly thinking of doing and sharing with you in a series. So thanks everybody for watching and have a fantastic day.